So we are going to find all possible values of theta. So this is what we're talking about. This is the important thing right there. All possible values of theta. And then this here is also important. It's between 0 and 360. So that's once they were on the unit circle. So we are given this information. So we're given that cosine of theta is equal to -1/2. So we want all the angles theta between 0 and 360 that is going to give us when cosine is going to be -1/2. The first thing you need to do is look at all students take CAT, and so we have all students take CAT, and the cosine of theta is negative. The trig ratio is negative. So where is cosine negative? Well, cosine is the x-axis, so we know it's going to be negative in the second quadrant and in the third quadrant. So that's where they're going to be negative. So we know that we're talking about the 1/2 there. So we're going to be making, it's going to be the same reference angle. So we're going to draw the same reference angle going this way. Oops, I erased that. We're going to go this way, and then it's going to go this way as well. So that's your tangent on there. And so they're going to have the same reference angle. That's this angle and that angle. And what we want is all possible values of theta. They're talking about the standard position theta, not the reference angles, but we're going to use the reference angles to help us find the standard position angles. So if I'm looking at that, they really want the angle that starts here at the positive x-axis and swings over on there into the second quadrant. Well, we could very easily find the reference angle. We could do it even on our left hand. On our left hand, we want, it's always going to be the square root over 2 for cosine. So therefore, I know we're going to have a 2, and I know I'm going to have a square root. I just need to know the fingers that are above here, and the finger is going to be 1. So we know that's going to be 1. So I want one finger above my bended finger, and in order for me to do that, that's going to be my pointer. So that means that it's 60 degrees. So my reference angle is going to be 60 degrees there, and it's also going to be 60 degrees there. And so I know that then I could take that angle because I'm looking for the standard position angle. The whole thing is 180. So I am going to take 180, and then I am going to subtract it from 60, and that's going to give me 120 degrees. So we know that our angle, the first theta that we're looking for, is going to be 120 degrees. Now the other angle now is going to be coming all the way from the standard position, and it's going to go all the way to the third quadrant because that's where we want the other 1/2. So now we got the full half of a circle. So that one there is going to be the full 180 degrees. And now we're going to add the reference angle, which is going to be 60. So I add that in there. And so my other angle, when I add them, is going to be 240 degrees. So my other angle is going to be 240 degrees. So it's this angle and that angle. And the 60 degree that we're going to put, if I have a little r there, that's going to mean reference angle. And so that's going to be a 60-degree reference angle. So that helps us find all the possibilities. And cosine is only positive in this negative in the second quadrant and the third quadrant. So there are only going to be 2 answers in this case. Okay, now it says again, we're back to finding all the possible angles between 0 and 360, and this time we're given sine is going to be -1. Well, sine being -1, we know what that's going to be. Well, -1 is going to be when it's either at the 90 degree or at the 270, because we know that that's where sine is going to be the full 1 or -1. And so since this is in the positive above the x-axis, that's going to be a +1. This one here is going to be in the negative. That's going to be where we want it. So we want to know what the angle is when sine is going to be that between 0 and 360. So we're talking about the angle that goes all the way around and goes here. So theta is just going to be 270 degrees in this case. There is no other place between 0 and 360 where sine is going to be -1. So that is the answer to that problem right there. Notice how I'm showing the work using the X and Y axes so that it describes it there. Let's see. So the last one here is finding all the angles again of between 0 and 360 of tangent equals to positive 1. So tangent is going to be positive 1. So we have all students take CAT. We know that tangent is going to be in quadrant 1. And it's also going to be in quadrant 3 because tangent is the takes part. So we know that's going to be there. Now here, we're going to have the reference angle. The reference angle and the standard position angle in quadrant 1 are always the same, but it is not for all the other ones. So this is the angle that I want from there. But I need to know when tangent is going to be 1. So that means that tangent is 1. If tangent is sine of theta over cosine of theta, and I want it to be 1, when is sine going to be the same as cosine? And that's easy. That's going to be at 45 degrees because that's where we have the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, and there you got it. But the other thing is we want to bend the finger, if you want to do it on your left hand, where you have the same amount of fingers above the bended finger as well as below the bended finger, because I know that tangent is going to be the square root over the square root. So either which way you want to find that out, it's going to be 1. Our reference angle is going to be 45, but because it's in quadrant 1, that reference angle is also our standard position angle, and so therefore theta is going to be 45. In order for me to find the angle, the standard position angle in quadrant 3, what you're going to need to do is, here's the full half, so we have a whole 180 there, and we're going to add the 45 degrees. Adding the 45 degrees is going to give us 225 degrees. So the two angles that we're talking about is going to be the 45 and the 225. So all the angles possible to have tangent to be 1 is going to be 45 degrees and 225 degrees. Very good.